So today we're talking more about the INTP and the Myers-Briggs system. So keep listening to learn more about how to support yourself if you're an INTP, as well as a stretch opportunity. And if you're a loved one, coworker of an INTP, then continue listening to be able to understand more how we can support INTPs in our lives. So first, we call the INTPs the innovative analyst. They're very innovative. They like to think a lot, very kind of on their own. And so I'm going to dig into it. So the I in Myers-Briggs system stands for introverted. So we say they are battery power. They need to recharge on their own and maybe take that time by themselves to be able to recharge. They also kind of do a lot of internal processing. The N in Myers-Briggs is intuitive. So they're very big picture, wondering what if, what could be. T is for thinking. So of course we all think and we all feel, but in Myers-Briggs system, thinking is more about logic. So making decisions based on logic and ideas. And then the P is perceiving, so preferring options. So thinking of their environment as options to be explored. And so that INTP, introverted, intuitive, big picture, thinking, focus on logic, ideas, and then perceiving, prefer options. So they're very oftentimes like in their head, learning a lot, very brilliant, love to continue learning and digging in. So some core traits that we see in INTPs are very analytical, very curious, and independent thinkers. They can be very innovative at work, so it's a great person to tap into and very logic focused. Potentially some famous INTPs might be Harper Lee, Isaac Newton, and Blaise Pascal based on what we've seen. And so here are 3 tips if you're an INTP to be able to really, to kind of have your strengths thrive. So first, give yourself deep work time. So as we kind of discussed, you're introverted, big picture, logic focused, want option. So make sure that you find ways to build that time into your calendar and have time for deep work. So you can tinker and explore, really dig into the things that, that light up your curiosity. A second one is we say ask the weird question. So I'm guessing that again, with your curiosity, with your deep thinking, your focus on logic and ideas, you probably have some questions that are kind of weird and kind of out of the box. It's really great. It's important. We love your curiosity. So make sure you lean into that curiosity as a strength and bring up your weird questions because other folks might be either thinking the same thing or needing to have your insight. Make sure you capture, a third tip is to capture your ideas early. So even if they're not finished, make sure that you're starting to outline and sketch your ideas as you're digging in and not just kind of get lost in a rabbit hole that you're not capturing. It's really important. We want to be able to share. We want to learn more about your ideas. So make sure you capture those. And then a stretch opportunity is, again, if you're introverted, we really need as teammates, as loved ones, as friends, we want to hear your thinking. So kind of push yourself to be able to share your thinking out loud, maybe sooner than you already, they don't have to be fully baked, but be ready to share your thinking because it can help others connect the dots along with you. And then you can also find some great collaborators that way who follow your thinking, who really appreciate your curiosity and who can help bridge the gap and outline some of the details, push your thinking if needed. Now, if you work with an INTP, here are a few tips to be able to support them to be at their best. Make sure you give them time. So they might, being an introvert, they might take longer to process and reply, but it's really going to pay off because they're very deep thinkers, very curious. So make sure that you give them time to be able to process and reply. So if, for instance, if I'm leading a meeting with an INTP, at best, like I'll try to give a few questions that we're going to consider or topics we're going to consider in advance so that they can start that process of thinking through early. If not, that's okay, but we want to give think time in meetings. And if someone said, hey, I need a little more time to think about this, then that's great. Let's give them that time to think and process and just have a time that we're going to follow back up with them. A second tip for working with INTPs is to be open to the unexpected. So again, they are very curious, deep thinkers, analytical. They may see possibilities. They may have deep insights that other people might miss. So let's make sure that we're open to their ideas and we really take it into consideration. And the third is to not expect linear progress. So don't expect linear progress. Their path to brilliance is often non-linear. So respect the journey. So if we've got, it's really important to think about what are the outcomes that I need? And let me not worry as much about the process that folks take to get there. Because it may look different from the way that I'm approaching it, but it can still result in brilliance at the end. So let's really give people some opportunities to have processes that are different from ours. Now, if you are a fan of the DISC, D-I-S-C, or if you're curious about it, it's also based on the work of Carl Jung, just like the Myers-Briggs system is. And so we're going to give a quick connection between Myers-Briggs and DISC. So oftentimes INTPs can reflect a high C in the DISC system. So they often are conscientious and so very analytical and just, but they have a creative twist, right? They might not do things exactly the same way all the time, but they can have that CE conscientious overlap within the DISC space. So again, make sure you provide them space, autonomy, and an intellectual challenge as you work with them. So if you want to learn more, we absolutely love doing work with folks around team communication, team building, leadership, conflict, navigation, etc. And so we do team workshops, coaching, strategic thinking with folks. So feel free to reach out at kjconsultinggroup.com. Thanks.